Echo has been hyped up as the first adult-rated MCU show. It was supposed to be the project that showed real change after the lackluster 2023 that destroyed a lot of people's interest in this franchise. Echo, quite simply, was supposed to be different. Well, after watching just one episode and nothing more, I can confirm that it is different, but maybe not in the way that Marvel Studios hoped. Let's discuss. Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Echo is another MCU project about a somewhat obscure character that I have not and will not ever care about. That being said, as with everything that I watch, I wanted to give this a fair chance to impress me.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
It's basically being sold to us on the prospect that it's closer to the Netflix Marvel shows than it is your typical Disney Plus series. The same Netflix Marvel shows that Disney recently declared as canon in the MCU, after years of trying to push them to the side. So what changed? Well, for years now, it seemed like they wanted to cherry pick certain characters from the Netflix shows, characters that were recognizable to people, but that Disney clearly had no intention of keeping consistent with their Netflix counterparts. Like everything at Marvel Studios, it was all being done to be appealing on the surface level. In their eyes, it was enough to just include these characters because their fans would accept whatever they are given. They wanted to turn these characters into just another cameo or Easter egg, to give people a quick jolt of excitement, but never really follow through with them.
Something very familiar about all this.
And then She-Hulk happened, and they managed to ruin what many people believe is the best thing to come out of the Netflix era in Marvel, that being Daredevil. But since She-Hulk, a lot has changed, and Marvel is making a push to be taken seriously again. So now they are publicly embracing the more mature content that they previously wanted nothing to do with. This is all part of their plan to rebuild the MCU. And that, of course, involves using what other people created. Don't believe me? They have a whole Deadpool and Avengers film coming out in the near future that is going to be doing just that. So since they don't have the creative capabilities to forge their own path, Echo is their attempt to replicate that Marvel Netflix formula that worked so well for a lot of people. And to Echo's credit, after just one episode, I didn't see much of your typical MCU cringe comedy, which is a step in the right direction.
Jesus Christ, it's about time!
There was one quirky side character introduced later in the episode, a cousin of the main character who I found to be a little obnoxious, but it wasn't anything as bad as what we normally see from these type of characters. But then it came time to tell a story, and outside of the cringe, that has been Marvel Studios' biggest issue recently, in that they don't understand the basic fundamentals of revealing a plot and telling a story. As the great Quentin Tarantino once said, a good plot is one that unfolds in a way that keeps the audience engaged and on the edge of their seats. Let me just say, Echo's biggest issue, as it stands after watching just one episode, is that it has the weirdest, most awkward plot structure that I think I've ever seen. I don't know if it's a story issue or an editing issue, but most of the time it felt like a really long pre-episode recap of something that I had never seen before.
That makes sense.
I don't know if this show was supposed to be longer than 5 episodes at one point, and they cut and chopped it down to make it less painful to sit through, but the episode basically bypasses or glosses over what would have been the most interesting parts of this character's story. The episode begins simple enough with our main character Maya as a child losing her mother. Something that should have been universally relatable and get you interested in this character's journey. Instead, Echo decides to breeze right past it without letting that moment resonate emotionally. And you also have to take into account that we've only met these people about 5 minutes prior to this happening. So we fast forward very quickly to present day and we already see Maya in kick-ass mode, taking down fools at, I guess, her local kickboxing class. Again, we don't see her journey to becoming this person. Now, we may get flashbacks to the time that we skipped over later in this series, but the way that it's presented to us in this first episode is very jarring and does the character a disservice.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So almost immediately, we have Kingpin showing up to deliver awkward dialogue about how he relates to Maya. If only the audience would feel the same way. So he becomes a de facto mentor to her as he has her out on the streets doing his dirty work, killing off his enemies, with the promise that he will one day find the mysterious, hooded man who killed her father. During this time is when Maya has a brief encounter with Daredevil, which, if I have to be honest, Daredevil is presented much better in this series than he was in She-Hulk. The issue comes when these two characters fight, and they are shown to be pretty much evenly matched. And again, you have to take into consideration that they've done nothing up until this point to establish Maya as this skilled fighter. And this, in effect, makes her confrontation with Daredevil, a character we've spent a lot of time with, less believable.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
When you have a brand new character being dropped into an established franchise, you have to establish her as being someone who is worthy of being taken seriously. Again, these are the basic fundamentals of building a new character. You have to do more than showing her beating up random thugs with an RBF. The highlight of her action sequences come when we see things from her perspective. Because the sound drops out as all this crazy is happening around her, because she is deaf, if I haven't mentioned that already. It's an effective creative decision, but it doesn't make up for the writer's unwillingness to build this character properly. And then, just as soon as we rush through all of that, we are thrust into yet another confrontation between Maya and her father's hooded killer. There's no build up to this, they just randomly meet after an awkwardly edited transition.
That escalated quickly.
They also drop the bombshell on us in this moment that the hooded individual is actually Hawkeye, and he also reveals to her in a twist that Kingpin is the one who wanted her father dead. These twists would probably mean a lot more if they weren't happening in the first 30 minutes of this show. And just like everything else, we jump right into Maya confronting Kingpin about these allegations. And then she anticlimactically shoots him, presumably killing him, and I can't stress this enough, all of this happened in the first 28 minutes. These are things that could have and should have happened, stretched out over an entire season. A good writer could take all of the plot points I just mentioned, fill out things around it, and make it a solid 8-episode miniseries. But apparently, the writers of Echo had different ideas. Apparently, they are more interested in telling a different part of Maya's story. And after a brief return to her childhood home, and reintroductions with characters from her past, the true intentions of this series are finally revealed.
And here we go.
Apparently, killing Kingpin wasn't enough. She now wants to send a message to his men, presumably putting people she cares about in harm's way in the process. But that doesn't matter, because in her words, or her signs, it's time for a queen to take control of the underworld. Yes, not only did they give this character a literal Yas Queen moment, they reveal that she has every intention of filling the void left by Kingpin's absence. So rather than telling us a story about her journey to become this lethal assassin after 2 tragedies in her life, and in the process giving us an always satisfying revenge tale, we are basically getting an anything you can do, I can do better series. Never change, Marvel. Never change.
Why are you the way that you are?
The truth is that this show was doomed to fail from the very start. Marvel is now attempting to give us stories focused on characters that have not been established without doing the legwork to properly establish them. They are once again using cameos and familiar faces to prop the whole story up because they're too lazy to build new characters. And don't be fooled by the gimmick of this is being made for mature audiences. There's honestly nothing in this show from either a violence, language, or storytelling perspective that would suggest that this series is worthy of being considered adult-rated. It's another sad attempt to drum up interest in a brand that people are continuously giving less and less of a shit about.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.